Well guys, it has finally happened. I've been talking about this on the channel for over a year now, and it finally happened to yours truly. My homeowner's insurance is canceled. That's right. Just heard from my insurance agent that my policy is going to be non-renewed, and my policy expires at the end of January, so I literally only have a couple of weeks to find a new policy. And like many of you who watch my channel, I have a mortgage, so I need to have homeowners insurance. I'm not sure what I'm going to be able to find. I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but it'll be interesting to keep you guys posted about this because, you know, some people hear about all this and they think, oh, you're just saying all this just to get clicks and views. Like, really, guys? Really? Like, people who think that are just out of touch with reality. They're not really living through this like so many of us are, because clearly this is even happening to me now. This is not a news story. This is happening to me. And you know, here's the crazy thing, guys. Like right now, or at least I did have coverage with Edison Insurance, okay? And Edison, I've only been with them for 2 years because I've only owned my condo for 2 years. In fact, February will be the 2-year anniversary since I've owned the place. So barely had the place for 2 years, already getting my first non-renewal notice. And I've never had any claims. I've never even gotten in touch with the insurance people. Okay, I've never needed it for anything. And you know, on top of that, my policy has been a bare bones policy, okay? Like when you look at the coverage that I have on this place, it's just enough to basically legally have insurance. It's not like I'm covered to the moon on anything, you know? $30,000 dwelling coverage, $100,000 liability coverage, $6,000 loss of use coverage is basically nothing, you know, $30,000 in personal property, right? So literally with these limits, I could practically afford to self-insure, okay? Like this insurance policy is useless to me. And remember, this only covers the inside of my walls on my condo, because the majority of insurance that I pay for that luckily has not been dropped goes into the master insurance policy, which is collected through the monthly HOA dues. So everybody's always asking like, well, Michael, what happens when, you know, all these people have a mortgage and they lose insurance? Well, I don't know. I may be about to find out, guys. I don't know. I have a feeling that I'll probably be able to get Citizens Insurance, because Citizens is always the insurance company of last resort, and I know a few of our neighbors have Citizens Insurance, so I'm pretty confident we'll be able to get a policy with them. But my insurance broker says that he has another company that's writing policies down here now. He didn't say which one it was, the name, but it's a developing story, guys. I'll keep you posted. And I just want to let you know, before we get into all the rest of the insurance stuff I have to talk about in this video, that this is now happening to me. This is not some far off thing where no one's getting touched by this. It's starting to happen all over the place, guys. Everybody is going to start feeling the effects from this. Most notably, the places that are having the biggest trouble with insurance right now, like California and Florida, Texas, Colorado. You know, it looks like the top 4, even the Carolinas now, are starting to have major problems with insurance, and this is not going to slow down anytime soon. Now, one thing I can definitely say is I'm glad that at least I haven't been paying these fools for the past 20 or 30 years, and then they drop me, because that really has to suck. Like, I can only imagine the feeling that people have when, you know, they pay insurance to a company for that long, and then all of a sudden they get dropped. I mean, you just feel like cheated and robbed, guys. So at least I only paid these guys for 2 years, and they're not going to see any of my money again after that. So that kind of softens the blow a little bit. But I'll tell you what, it sucks as a homeowner feeling that moment of vulnerability when you get the non-renewal notice of like, oh my God, what am I going to do now? What if there was no Citizens Insurance, right? What if nobody else would write a policy? What happens then? And by the way, you guys can see I'm wearing a t-shirt today. I know, so out of the ordinary, because it's actually nice enough out here to wear a t-shirt. There's actually a slight little drizzle happening at the beach right now, but it's not bad enough where, you know, I need to like run inside or anything like that. But if it picks up, I'll finish the rest of this video in the house. Now, insurance companies in general, guys, are in big trouble right now. In fact, there was a whole story that came out about how buying homeowners insurance and buying auto insurance right now is becoming impossible. And literally, my story that I just started this video with is an example of that. If I am able to get insurance, I'll be lucky if there's another company besides Citizens to even get it from, okay? But Allstate is one of the biggest insurance companies in the entire country. They have been losing billions of dollars, and they recently have failed to get the green light for the rate increases that they wanted to get in certain areas, and are now starting to drop more and more people, like what just happened to me. Now, in places where Allstate is actually winning and they're getting their way, in New Jersey, for example, they got the green light to increase auto insurance rates by 17%. In New York, they were able to increase them by 15%. In California, they got the green light to increase auto insurance rates by 30%, and they're waiting on the green light to be able to increase your homeowners insurance rates by 40%. So that's going to be lovely for all the people of California. And you know, guys, like, this is something that's like relatively shocking in terms of, you know, how new of a problem this is. Like, I remember growing up as a kid, you know, hearing my parents talking about insurance, like, okay, yeah, we're gonna get a quote from another company and we'll just switch if, you know, they give us a better deal. And for the longest time, people were able to do that with relative ease, and it wasn't much of a concern. You know, it was just kind of like, all right, let's get a better deal, move on to the next thing in life. Well, now it's becoming this massive problem for people, where you can see these rates are jumping by 20, 30, 60, some cases 70% for some people that we'll talk about here, and with no warning. Like, hello, by the way, your rate's going to go up by 70%. The insurance is going from an afterthought to something that can literally bankrupt homeowners or make it so that way people cannot afford to drive their cars anymore. That's where this is going right now. And once again, they're going to blame it on their losses, because literally insurance companies have been losing a ton of money over the past few years. And they're saying it's because of climate change. They're saying it's because of all of the global catastrophes, the wildfires, the hurricanes, the flooding, and all of this stuff. They talked to a guy that works for Citizens Insurance here in Florida. He's been working for 52 years here in the state of Florida, guys, and he says, I've never seen the overall insurance market this bad before. It's all coming to a head right now. At one of the worst times, arguably, you could say, because inflation is still raging. You know, everything in life costs far more than it did a few years ago, and now insurance, I mean, this could be the killing blow for a lot of people. Homeowners across the nation, as well as people who need auto insurance, you know, are having these huge rise in premiums. You're getting less coverage for the rise in premiums, and you have fewer choices than before. Like, what is going on, guys? Like, insurance is basically disappearing in a lot of places. Farmers insurance, they increased homeowners insurance rates by more than 23% last year for thousands and thousands of their policyholders. Nationwide Mutual, they said they will not renew 10,500 homeowners insurance policies in hurricane-prone areas of North Carolina this year. State Farm, they lost $13 billion in 2022, which is its worst year on record ever for losing money, guys. And State Farm is one of the companies that stopped writing homeowners insurance policies in the state of California in 2023. And for the people that do still have homeowners insurance with them in 2023, yeah, well, they got approved to increase their rates by 20% this year. So welcome to 2024, everybody. And right now it's being reported that across the board, U.S. property casualty insurance companies racked up $32.2 billion in net underwriting losses in the first 9 months of 2023. Which is $7.6 billion worse than the year before in 2022. And guess what? That's only for the first 9 months, guys. The last 3 months of the data is not even in. So probably the worst year on record ever. And if you look at this chart here, going back to 2018, you can see the amount of profit that all of these insurance companies were bringing in throughout 2018 and through 2020. They were making, you know, a sizable profit, almost $5 billion a year for those last couple of years there. Well, now they're losing $33 billion a year, okay? This is like bad, really bad. So if you're wondering why your premiums are going up and why everything's getting jacked to the moon, this chart kind of explains it all. It's being reported right now by the US Labor Department that car insurance rates across the country have increased by almost 20% through November of 2023, guys. And I was one of them. I actually shared that with you guys, that my car insurance rate got jacked up by 26%. No accidents, no anything, just a 26% increase. And I ended up, lowering all my coverage limits and sliced everything basically in half. And in order to get the insurance rate back down to a rate that I was okay with paying. Because the other thing with insurance is, like, just because you can afford to pay the premium doesn't mean you should. Basically, I determined that I had way too much coverage because I was still paying the amount of coverage that I was paying back when I was leasing my Jeep, and now I own my Jeep, so I don't need to pay the same coverage anymore. I don't have that lease, I don't have the lease terms to abide by. So I was like, why am I paying for a $300,000 liability plan here when I don't need that? You know what I'm saying? So let's drop it down. And I did. They talked to this guy in Las Vegas who owns a 2012 Mazda 5. I don't even know what that is, but it just sounds like a whatever car, okay? And it's not that new. His monthly insurance premium with Geico went up 72% in less than a year, guys. In April, he was paying $130 a month with Geico. Now it's $223. He's had no accidents and no tickets. So just, hey, we're losing money, and here's the bill. Even insurance companies themselves are being gouged right now by reinsurance companies who basically give insurance to insurance companies. And the prices for reinsurance went up anywhere between 30 to 50% in 2023, guys. So as you can see, all these increases are trickling down to us and getting passed along to the end user, or they're just dropping you altogether. And here's the problem, like, the old advice with insurance has always been, well, if it's too expensive or you get dropped like what happened to me, you just shop around and find something else. Well, what happens when you can't find something else? What happens when the day comes and these insurance companies have completely disappeared? And if you think that is like a fantasy, that's something that's never going to happen, I'm just, talking BS here. Well, even the CEO of Allstate in this story came out and said that he believes in the near future there's going to be insurance deserts, meaning that there's going to be places throughout the world and obviously throughout this country that are just uninsurable, guys. Like, you're not going to be able to get insurance at all. They're going to determine that they cannot increase their costs enough to spread the risk enough appropriately, and they're going to be done. They're just not going to write policies anymore. And we've already seen this happen here in Florida, really. I mean, Florida's been ground zero for this, but now it's spreading to other parts of the country too. They're also claiming that the prices of new and used cars have pushed auto insurance rates up, and also the cost of parts and labor, people driving more expensive vehicles in more extreme weather. And the CEO of Allstate says that he's been there for 27 years, guys. Think about that, 27 years. And we've never increased auto rates in the way that we have in the last 2 years. So clearly, I'm not making this up. Clearly, this is something that everybody's experiencing right now, that everybody's getting hit with these insurance increases. I did a whole video on this a couple weeks ago. I asked you guys to let me know how much all of your different types of insurance are going up, and everybody from all over the country was telling me how much insurance is going up. Even across the pond in the UK, different parts of Europe, is going up over there too. So it's not even just a US thing, but over here, we're getting reamed severely because of the percentage and the amount that is going up here versus how much is going up over there. It's like a laughable difference, really. Then they say, well, people need to understand that their houses and their cars are worth more money now, and it costs more to insure it, so people are just going to have to figure it out. So yeah, guys, that's the advice from the insurance company. You're just going to have to figure it out. Okay, so it doesn't matter if you're already tapped out and you already don't make enough money. Figure it out. Now here's another chart I want to show, because it goes all the way back to the year 2000, and it shows the global insured losses due to extreme weather, okay? And yes, you can see that it is gradually going up, And that's why these insurance companies are blaming climate change. You never hear them say, well, yeah, we have extreme weather, but now there's 2 or 3 times as many people living in the path of destruction of that extreme weather, and they all drive more expensive cars than they did 5 years ago, especially back to the year 2000. All of their homes are worth exponentially more than they were back in the year 2000. So it's no wonder that these insured losses are so much higher than they were 24 years ago, guys. Like, that's kind of a no-brainer. But yet they just blame it on the weather. So many insurance companies, they don't want the bad publicity of just, you know, dropping people. So instead of like making any announcements or anything like that, they just do quiet quitting, just like people quitting their jobs, right? They just stop writing policies, just like they did to me. They're just canceled. That's it. No explanation, no anything. They just come out and say, oh, we're not accepting new business right now. They pull back on their advertising in the area. They close down all their physical locations. Next thing you know, you can't get a policy anymore. Geico did it in California last year. They closed every single one of the Geico offices throughout the entire state. Goodbye. Another trick that they're doing right now, guys, FYI, watch out for this. You might come across this when trying to renew insurance, is they say they are trying to make people come up with hard to find paperwork, like proof that the plumbing's been updated in your house or something ridiculous like that, that you probably won't be able to prove because you probably don't have any documentation from it. And if you can't provide it, we're going to drop your policy. So it's just their way of saying, we don't want your business anymore. Fine, don't take our business, guys, because you know what's going to happen is I think they're going to drop so many people, and they're going to have to start charging their existing customers who are still left so much money that people are going to voluntarily start dropping them anyhow. And these insurance companies aren't going to have any more customers because nobody's going to be able to afford their rates in the next 5 years if it keeps going like this. Essentially, these guys are putting themselves out of business right now because their business model is broken. It doesn't work anymore. Now, here in Florida, one of the biggest problems we've had with insurance that's led to all of the reforms here has been lawsuits. And the Florida Office of Insurance Regulation, they analyzed 58,395 insurance claims in 2022 that led to lawsuits. What they found out was that these litigated claims cost on average 6 times more than a normal claim, guys. So these lawsuits tremendously increase the amount of money that these insurance companies lose, not just the weather. And even though we did not get hit with a hurricane here in Southeast Florida in 2022, 28% of closed insurance claims in Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach counties ended with a lawsuit. So that's almost 30% even without a hurricane. The statewide average for these lawsuits is only 10%. So also, people here in South Florida that have been trying to scam insurance companies through lawsuits for way too long are also part of the problem. But some of it's legit, guys. Like, some of you have reached out to me and wrote me emails and saying, hey, Michael, I had this big problem with my house, with the foundation, and the insurance company is supposed to cover it. According to my policy, this is covered. But then, you know, when I made the claim, they say that it's not covered because this was existing damage before you signed up with us, so we're denying your claim. And people write me stuff like this and ask, what should I do? And it's like, I don't know, guys. To be honest, I really don't know. My first reaction too would be to hire a lawyer. But how far is it going to go? Are you really going to get anything out of it? I have no idea. And if you live in Florida, now it's much harder to sue these insurance companies. So even if you feel like you're being legitimately wronged by the insurance company, now it's much harder to sue them. So it works both ways. It kind of gets rid of all these roofing scammers that try to put on new roofs on the expense of the insurance company, but it also makes it tougher for people that have a legitimate beef with the insurance company. But they're still saying that these litigation claims are blown out of proportion on how much it's costing insurance companies, because they said it costs about, in 2022, it cost these insurance companies about $580 million here in Florida, but in 2022, they turned a $16 billion profit, guys. So, you know, it's a drop in the bucket for these guys, really, even with these more expensive litigated claims. And it's funny because whenever these insurance companies are doing well like that, like, oh my God, $16 billion in profit, that's a lot of money, right? You don't see them lowering your rates when they're making these huge profits. They're just keeping it all for themselves. But then the moment they start losing money, like we saw in these charts, guess what? It's time for your rate to get jacked up between 40 and 70% in 1 year. No notice, figure it out. As most of you can probably tell, I just hate insurance companies, guys. I really do. I know they can be beneficial for you if you get in a really big accident or something happens, and people always have that one success story about how, you know, insurance saved their butt because their house burned down or whatever. But those stories are far less common than the ones that we're talking about here, about people getting increases for no reason, people getting dropped for no reason, and all of the stuff that's happening to most people out there. North Carolina's having a problem with this too, guys. In North Carolina, they're trying to get approvals for insurance rates across the board there to be increased by 40%. So like I said, this is not something unique to Florida. It's happening to states all over the place. You know, the other day I talked about a story how an HOA in Missouri had an increase over there as well. It basically doubled, okay? So that's in the middle of the country. It's not like Missouri is on the coast. It's not like they get hurricanes there. They don't have wildfires and earthquakes in Missouri. So why are they getting these increases, right? It's to pay for all these losses. But just because the insurance companies are requesting a 40% rate increase doesn't mean they're gonna get it in North Carolina. So it'll be interesting to see if this goes through or not and they get their way. They talked to one of the insurance commissioners there, and he says that, you know, he doesn't know which way this is going to go, but in the past, every time this has come up, whether it's for automobile or homeowners insurance, he's voted no, because in his opinion, the numbers that came in were just not justified. So clearly you can see by just this one insurance commissioner's view on this that, yeah, they do need to increase the rates, but not by the amount that they're trying to, right? Because you got to remember that these are all for-profit companies and they need to make a profit, guys. So maybe the real number is they only need to increase rates by 10 or 15%, but they're going for a 40% increase, you know, to cover their asses and to make sure that they can make a profit this year, right? Especially when you see that chart with all the losses, it's pretty crazy. Now, one other thing with insurance I want to mention here is a lot of people that work in insurance end up writing me, and always feel free to write me something, guys. You can check my email in the About section of my channel. Feel free to write me something. I can't respond to all the emails I get because it is a crazy amount, but I do read everything that comes in. And one guy said that he works for State Farm Corporate, okay? Didn't want to give his name or anything, it's totally anonymous here, but he works for State Farm Corporate. And one sketchy thing that they're doing to cut corners with State Farm, and likely a lot of other insurance companies as well, is they have customer service reps working in Mexico now to take over the phone payments. And the problem with this is that if you call in and say that you want to change your card or your payment information, then you have to give them your full bank account number or your credit card number. And he said his wife is from Mexico, and you don't let your credit card out of sight over there because it will be stolen and used fraudulently. Since they have these call centers in Mexico now, a lot of Americans are completely oblivious to this and just give their payment info over the phone to the insurance company and might be giving it to somebody who's going to use it to fraudulently make charges against their accounts, or even worse, maybe try to steal their identity. Who knows, guys? And he even said to me, Michael, I think if most Americans knew this, they wouldn't call into the 1-800 number to update the payment info or to make a payment with a new card or bank account, and they would do that with their local agent or do it on the State Farm app or State Farm website. So this is a big piece of advice for all of you guys out there. When it's time to pay your insurance, don't call it in. Don't pay over the phone. Especially do not change your payment information over the phone, because you have no idea who you're talking to on the other side of that line and where they're located, guys. Yet another cost-saving measure insurance companies are taking to increase their bottom line. And he says it's probably not just State Farm. You know, probably all the big insurance companies are doing this. They're doing everything they can to cut back on different expenses, because at the end of the day, guys, they are beholden to their shareholders. They're publicly traded companies. They have one goal that they need to do. It's not provide, you know, good insurance benefits for you. It's to turn a profit for their shareholders. So just never forget that. So I'll let you know what happens with my own insurance once I have an update on it. and hopefully I'll be able to get a reasonable policy for around the same price. I have no idea what's going to happen, guys, but I'll keep you posted. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you don't want to wait for my next video to come out, check out this one on the screen right over here, and I'll see you in the next one.